Listen, waking up is hard. I'm performing my self-sabotage routine once again, having set my alarm just before I must leave. No time to make food. I could have set my alarm 20 minutes earlier, but I would rather die. So I did what any rational, totally mentally stable person does in this situation, and travelled to the brink of insanity, building a robot to do it for me. What can go wrong? Nothing's in here, just cooking some toast. No. Oh my god, what? Where did you get this genius idea, I hear you ask? Well, I was watching this show with my son. Now, he's never seen this before, but for me this is deep-rooted in my brain. I wanted to be Wallace as a child, and that's when it hit me. I could build an Autochef that cooks for me while I'm still asleep. Just picture it. You walk downstairs and your breakfast is ready on the plate. Someone must have done this, I thought. So I did some diligent Googling for breakfast robots. But to my surprise, no one has. At least, no one's made a good one. There is some half-cooked ones out there. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Back to the Future have all made prop versions of this machine, so not real. But I did find some real cooking robots out there, and they all have the exact same two problems as the film ones. Did you see what it is? Let's jump to the cutting edge of cooking robotics. This is Molly. It's a kitchen that claims to have automated cooking. Look at the stainless steels, the robotics, the touchscreen controls, so futuristic. Perfect, right? Wrong! Aside from the fact that it costs more than my house, it's not even good automation. Let me explain so we don't make the same mistake. My problem with this is, what have you actually automated? You still have to prepare the ingredients, and you still have to clean up after the machine. So congratulations, you've just automated putting stuff in a pan. But that being said, if somebody else wants to pay, I'll take one. So let's put on our designer hats and take a look at our machine. Let's start with some design criteria. 1. Cook while I'm asleep. We want it fully automatic. I want breakfast ready when I wake up. 2. Not be huge. It needs to fit in my normal house. I don't want to have a whole room for this thing. 3. Minimal mess and setup. I just want to load ingredients and take out a fully cooked breakfast. 1, 2 and 3 are self-explanatory, but what 4 things could we make while satisfying the first criteria? I've gone for these. Toast, beans, eggs, sausages. They can all be cooked without causing too much mess. So, now we know the 4 things we're going to cook to satisfy that criteria, but how do we make this thing cook all those things and not be huge? Well, essentially, what we're building here is a CNC machine. And CNC machines, for the uninitiated, are primarily known for being big, heavy, metal cutting machinery, but they're actually everywhere. If you have a 3D printer, for example, that's also a CNC machine. When designing one, you want to minimize one thing, which is the amount of axis required to complete a task. An axis would be referring to the number of directions a machine can move in, because movement adds size, cost, and complexity. For every axis of movement, you're adding a motor or actuator, linear rails, ball screws, belts and pulleys to add one more axis of movement. We need to design minimizing the amount of moving parts and the size of these parts. We can do this by finding the minimum amount of movement we need to make these things. So let's take a look at that. My plan is to create 4 smaller CNC machines and then integrate them into one big unit. First, the bean tower. The minimum amount of movement I've been able to perform this task with is 4 axes of movement, using a magnet to pick up the can. We could have done this with less, but I wanted to have a magazine that could store multiple cans, so I had to have an X-axis to move from the magazine to the cooker. For the bread, I took inspiration from a conveyor-style toaster I saw on holiday, but this doesn't have any mechanism to load the toast onto the conveyor. You just have to hand load it like some sort of filthy peasant. So I designed a bread magazine with a much smaller conveyor. You can actually make toast with just one actuator and one motor. I also added this buttering station to the top of the conveyor. The heat from the toaster melts the butter, and these 2 small servos open a little flap which drips the butter onto the toast. I call it the reverse butterer. Onto the eggs. I designed this chute for the eggs to roll down. 2 slides like an airlock that stage when the eggs are dropped. But this is just a dispensing method. For cooking them, we have a pot below with a water connection to fill and drain from the bottom of the pot, and then a small heater inside the pot to boil the water. After cooking, we have a motor to tip the pot, and then our friend gravity brings the egg down this chute and onto the plate. Lastly, the sausages are cooked on a 3-axis robot that is mounted to the roof of the machine. This one has prongs as the tool head. I'm using these to skewer the sausage, move them from their storage into the small oven. But how do you remove them? Well, I'm going to use the front of the machine to scrape them off onto the plate. This also allows you to clean them easily, as this is the part of the machine you're going to need to clean. The last thing is the plate that I'm sliding between the stations to collect all the items. This plate also has a rotational axis so I can position the food evenly. There are a few things that I haven't finalised, like the conveyor, or how the can opener is going to be deployed onto the can, the small oven for the sausages, but we're going to dump that one on future Greg. So let's get building.
For your consideration, 2 months of my life in 47 seconds.
So, I've got a confession to make. Father, I have worked in programming for over 13 years, but I cannot program in C++.
Father?
And for some reason, when deciding to learn C++, my brain did this. Right, so, ideas.
Oh, we could take an online course.
No.
You get a book.
Fucking reading. No, we just watch some YouTube and YOLO it.
Yes.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. I also discovered some fun features of these heating elements I'm using. They use a nichrome wire that glows red hot, but with any metal, as it heats up, it also expands. This caused it to come into contact with the frame and shorted them out. I burnt out so many of these, I had to go and buy a second toaster to take it apart, as my design now functioned around these heater plates from this one specific toaster. To add to this, the small Chinesium heater I bought for the egg pot somehow, even without power, kept shocking. And past Greg had been a complete dick and hadn't designed any bearings into the conveyor, so now the motor will not turn it. How's it going, boys?
Fucking heater! And why didn't you put any bearings on the conveyor, you twat?
I know.
Fucking idiot!
I'm sorry.
It's going great.
Okay, I'll leave you to it. It took 2 more weeks, 3 designs on the conveyor, an additional Arduino to prevent shorts, and so much testing to get this to work. But eventually, I ran out of ways to fuck it up, so now, we're up and running, baby. Timers, boom. Touchscreen display, boom. All items cooking simultaneously, boom. Oh, and in Wallace & Gromit's, his is remote control, so I built this app. And I think that's looking pretty good. But now we've got an elephant in the room to talk about. This. And no, not the incredibly shit weld, but the brown stuff on the surface. Yes, I used mild steel for this project. No, that is not food safe. If you do not like it, leave a complaint above. And the much bigger daddy elephant in the room is this. So this might look like I've been smoking crack, but I promise I just suck at electronics. So I built this whole system on breadboards. They are a great temporary solution that always ends up being permanent. I was going to make up a big PCB for this, but I think it actually suits the machine with its Wallace & Gromit root. This here is the Autochef's brain, and it tells everything what to do and when. Most CNC machines only have a pathetic 4 or 5 axis. This has 12. These are driven by our stepper motors over here. A stepper driver is just a way of taking a small signal from a microcontroller and amplifying it to the motor. This bank of relays controls the actuators for the bread and the eggs. A relay, if you don't know, takes a small signal from the main microcontroller and connects a larger power source. These two solenoids are like relays, but instead of connecting power, they perform an action, like opening this water valve here to control the flow of water in and out of the egg pot. These are the power supplies. So we have a 12 volt here and a 5 volt here. This is a second Arduino that I've added to control the heaters to prevent them from burning out. We also have this bank of relays up here, which control the power in and out of the heaters. This bank of relays over here controls the auxiliary functions like the bean cap. Now there's just one thing left I've forgotten. Let's get it installed and give it a test. First we power it up, and then it's going to home all of its axis out. Then we can use the touchscreen to select how many of each item we want and how well we want them done. But what about our goal? To have breakfast cooked for when we wake up. For this, we use the app. It has the same options, but on the last page there is a button to schedule when we want our breakfast. The program actually calculates the finish time of the breakfast, so no matter what you tell it to cook, what time you set, it will always finish cooking at the set time. First time setting this before bed was very exciting. I didn't know if I was going to wake up to a lovely breakfast or a house fire. My wife told me she loved it so much that I had 3 months to get it out of the house. So now I guess that gives me 3 months to eat 711 breakfasts to make this worth my time. So if you want this machine for yourself, then become a Patreon member, as I'll be giving this machine to one of you. 100% of the money funded there is used for future projects. You also get access to my Discord. I talk while I build, so come chat. Plus, weekly updates on what I'm working on right now, and more. One thing I just couldn't get right was the butter dispenser. I am technically correct in saying the toast has butter on it, and as you know...
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
But what I'm really saying is, if at first you don't succeed, lower your standards until you do. Another slight inconvenience is that along with your reusable bags, you also have to remember your vernier calipers when shopping, as there is a little bit of a tolerance on which food you can use in the machine.
Top of the morning.
Oh my god, what? Well, I don't think I've seen a breakfast like that before. I have spent an alarming amount of time trying to get this thing to work. That being said,
Totally fucking worth it.
as in my 6-year-old eyes, I have become Wallace. I just hope I can help my son do the same. When he works out who he wants to be. You think we can beat it by 100 miles an hour? That can't be safe, can it? Well within the regulations. What are we building now? Well, I can't tell you that. You're not a Patreon.